In the last lecture, we basically finished our shopping list service, but here's one thing which is not working. I can click this add button as often as I want. I don't get an error, but I also don't see it getting added to this list. The reason for this is that when we call get ingredients, which we of course do to populate this list, we only get a slice of the ingredients array, so we get a copy. Therefore, once we add a new ingredient, which we of course don't add to the copy but to the original array, that is not reflected in our components where we only have that copy to work with. Now, there are a couple of ways of solving this. For the easiest solution, you could remove slice, and that's not necessarily bad. You would then simply return the original array. And if you are sure you don't accidentally edit it somewhere, this might not be wrong. I chose this approach here though, because I want to show you a different solution. We basically have to inform our component that new data is available. So I will simply add a new event emitter here, and I'll name it ingredients changed. And I'll set this to, or I'll of course set this to a new event emitter to be imported from @Angular core. This event emitter now can emit our ingredient array. So the type it will pass on is an array of ingredients. And now here, whenever we change this array, we simply call this ingredients changed and emit a new event. And we of course pass a value here, our original ingredients array, though to be precise, again, only a copy of it. So now we always have the right ingredients array in this service, and we inform other interested components about that change in the event we're emitting here. So now in the shopping list component, besides getting the ingredients at the point of time we load the app, I also want to reach out to my shopping list service and simply subscribe to that ingredients changed event. So now whenever ingredients change, I know that I will get them. This will be of type ingredient array here as we learned. And now I can use them here in the body of this anonymous function I'm passing to subscribe. And here I can now simply set this ingredients equal to the ingredients I got here. And with this change in place, now if we let the application reload here and go to shopping list, and now I add bread, and now you see it gets added here again without any issues, because now we're getting informed that something changed. We're almost finished. Our application is taking shape and services really improved it. Now I want to do something here on the recipes section. I want each recipe to have some ingredients, so we need to implement this. And thereafter, I want to make this to shopping list button work so that we can send our ingredients to the shopping list. So to do this, what I will do is, first of all, I will work on the recipe model. It should now also have ingredients. So this will be of type ingredient array. Ingredient, of course, needs to be imported from the respective model file in the shared folder. And when we create a new instance of this model, I expect to get some ingredients here. Again, this will be of type ingredient array, so that here we can assign ingredients equal to the ingredients we get as an argument here. So with that, we are prepared to have some ingredients. Now in the recipe service, I also need to add some here. So when we create a new recipe, and I'll simply structure this over multiple lines to make it easier to read, I also now will pass an array of ingredients, the same for the second recipe here. And now I guess it's time to also turn this into some real recipes, so let me quickly do this. So I quickly change the pictures and the text to have a schnitzel and a burger here. And now let's add some ingredients here in this array of ingredients. We can use the ingredient constructor for this. And of course we need to import the ingredient type here from the model file, located in the shared folder for that. And now for the schnitzel, let's say we need the meat, with an amount of 1 maybe. And then we also want to have some French fries here, let's say exactly 20. With 1 extra, it would probably not taste well, I guess. So now with the array for the burger, here we also need a new ingredient. We need the buns, so the bread basically. Let's say 2. And we also want to have the meat here. Of course, feel free to add more ingredients. So now that we added that in the recipe detail component, here where we have this ingredients placeholder, well, we can actually now output them here. So let's add something here. Let's add an unordered list with a class of list group. And now here I want to add a list group item. This item here will actually be replicated because, again, this will of course be my ingredient. So here ng4, and now I will loop through all the ingredients. So ingredient of, and now of recipe ingredients, of course. Because remember, in the recipe detail component, we have a recipe and that has some ingredients, since a couple of seconds at least. So now we can simply use string interpolation here to output the ingredient name, and then maybe separated by a dash, the amount. Of course, any format you like. So that's the first step. Now if we select the recipe, we see a list of ingredients at the bottom. Now I want to send these to the shopping list if I click this To Shopping List button. So that is what we'll work on in the next lecture. In the last lecture we added some ingredients. Now I want you to make this To Shopping List button work. You can come up with some ideas, some solution on how you can send these items to the shopping list so that once we go to the shopping list, we see them here. Think about informing the component that something changed, and also think about how to add more than one item at once to the shopping list. I wish you luck with that. Time to pause. In a couple of seconds, we'll do it together. So, were you successful? Let's add the shopping list items together. We already have this button in the recipe detail component. So the first step, of course, is to hook this button up. I will remove the ref here and instead add an inline style to still have a cursor, which looks like a pointer. But then here on the click listener, I'll call onAdd to shopping list. Of course, you can choose a different name. Now that will be executed here in the component body, in the recipe detail component TypeScript file. And here we either need to get access to the shopping list service or to the recipe service. And then the recipe service accesses the shopping list service. You can find arguments for both. You could say we're in the recipe section, therefore we should mainly work with the recipe service. You could say, why would we take this extra way, this extra step? We can directly access the shopping list service. Again, arguments can be found for both directions. I will choose the route where we use the recipe service. So I will inject the recipe service here. Type recipe service, of course. Make sure to add the import. And now I need to add a method in the recipe service. This is the add ingredients to shopping list method. Of course, you can also pick a shorter name if this one is a bit too long for you. Here, I expect to receive my ingredients, so that will be of type ingredients. And before we continue working on this in the recipe service, let's call this method. So in the in the recipe detail component, I will access my recipe service, call this brand new method with the extremely short name, and pass on the ingredients of this recipe here. So these ingredients. So with that, these ingredients are passed to the recipe service. Now here we need to access the shopping list service. Now for that we need to get access to the shopping list service in this file. And if you want to inject a service into a service, as we want to do here, you need to add injectable to that service. Make sure to import it from @Angular core. With that added here, we can inject the service now in the constructor of this recipe service class. Here I'll add the SL service, so the shopping list service, to which you'll need to add an import at the top pointing to the shopping list folder and then the shopping list service file. And with that added, we can now reach out to that here, SL service, and here we need to add a new method. So let's go to the shopping list service and let's add a add ingredients method like that. Now in here we will receive our list of ingredients, so of type ingredient array, and now we need a logic to add them. Now a quick and easy way would be to simply loop through them, so let ingredient of ingredients, ingredients like that, and then we could simply call this add ingredient for each ingredient. And that would be absolutely fine. The only downside probably is that we emit a lot of events. Now it won't be too bad because even a recipe with like 30 ingredients wouldn't blow up our app. But still, there are a lot of unnecessary event emissions. So that is a viable option, but I'll comment it out. A different one would be to directly add all ingredients in one go and then emit our event. So we could access our ingredients here and call the push method. And now we can use a ES6 feature, the spread operator, which allows us to basically turn an array of elements into a list of elements. Because the push method here is able to handle multiple objects. However, it is not able to handle an array. Or to be precise, it can handle an array, but then it would push this array as a single object to the other array. So by adding the spread operator, which is simply 3 dots, might look strange, but that is how the operator looks, we can now simply spread our ingredients into a list of single ingredients which are now pushed without issues to our ingredients array. And then, don't forget it, we have to emit that our ingredients changed, so why don't we simply pass a copy of it. So with that now, we got a method we can call, add ingredients. So back in the recipe service, on the shopping list service, we can now call add ingredients and pass our ingredients to that service. With that, let's save this and let's simply check this. Right now we only have the default values of apples and tomatoes on our shopping list. Now on the schnitzel we got meat and French fries. Let's click to shopping list and let's go to the shopping list and we see meat and French fries. Awesome, that looks really great. Of course, if you click this multiple times, it will duplicate it. And you can, of course, write some logic to check if an item has already been added and then group it together by name. I won't do this in this application. The main thing here is it works. We can send data around through our app by using services. We took a major step forward. Now, in the next section, we're going to have a look at routing, and thereafter we're going to add routing to this application to now get a proper navigation and also to make this new recipe button here work. So, see you there.